Stations of the Cross with St Eugene de Mazenod. The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. The chief priests, with the elders and the scribes, that is, the whole Sanhedrin, held a council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate questioned him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He said to him in reply, "You say so." The chief priests accused him of many things. Again, Pilate questioned him, "Have you no answer? See how many things they accuse you of?" Jesus gave him no further answer, so that Pilate was amazed. Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas and handed Jesus over to be crucified.
I see Jesus receiving his horrific and unjust sentence. What must he have felt to be condemned by Pilate? I see him choosing to be silent. When I feel or see an injustice, how do I react? What do I do? What can Jesus be doing? Why does he react in this way?
A thought from Oblate tradition. Faced with the decadence of the French church and society in which he lived, St Eugene's response was to form a band of missioners and preach parish missions throughout the countryside. As a part of the mission, there was a penitential procession. The missioners always took part in this to draw down on themselves, as well as on the people, God's mercy of which they all felt such great need. St Eugene as leader, barefoot and with a rope around his neck, was offered on this day as a victim to God's justice, a scapegoat, loaded with the iniquities of the whole people. We pray, Lord, teach me by your example to respond like a Christian to the injustices that I see around me at home or at work. May I see people and situations as you see them, and not through the eyes of the world.
The second station, Jesus receives his cross. When the chief priests and the guards saw Jesus, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no guilt in him." They cried out, "Take him away! Take him away! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, in Hebrew, Golgotha.
I know the cross takes many forms. Some sufferings I experience are invisible, such as loneliness, loss, or chronic pain. I cannot always see the pain that others suffer, often in silence. How do I feel about the cross that I find myself carrying? What meaning do I find in it? Can I carry it up freely?
A thought from Oblate tradition. We are people set apart for the gospel, ready to leave everything to be disciples of Jesus. The desire to cooperate with him draws us to know him more deeply, to identify with him, to let him live in us. We pray, Lord, help me to carry my cross with a free heart. Help me to be generous with my time and efforts, to treat all people with gentleness and compassion, and to ease the burden of others where and when I can.
The third station, Jesus falls for the first time. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed.
I see Jesus falling out of sheer exhaustion while carrying his cross, another humiliation. But he gets up and carries on. I learn that it is not failure when I am crushed and overwhelmed by my cross, when I experience embarrassment and humiliation. Do I get up and carry on?
A thought from Oblate tradition. I remember St Eugene's words, "We make the weak desperate when we have only reproaches to offer." We pray. Lord, inspire me to be compassionate to those who stumble under the weight of their crosses. Help me not to be judgmental, but to welcome the opportunity to show your love to them.
The fourth station. Jesus meets his mother. Then Simeon blessed them and said to his mother Mary, "This child is destined for the falling and the rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be opposed, so that the inner thoughts of many will be revealed. And a sword will pierce your own soul too." His mother treasured all these things in her heart.
Mary was a helpless bystander. Even her mother's love was powerless to prevent what was to happen to her son. A sword indeed pierced her heart. Today, I remember the many mothers who are helpless bystanders as their children suffer poverty or homelessness, sometimes very close to home in my parish or neighbourhood. Where do I turn for help when things are very difficult?
A thought from Oblate tradition. The Church places the Oblate family under the protection of Mary. St Eugene wrote to Father Tompier, "It will be consoling for us to be consecrated to her in a special manner and to bear her name. May I find Mary at my side on my way of the cross." And we pray. Mary accepted God's plan for her life with humility and grace, always trusting in God's love and guidance. Lord, help me to trust you, even when the way ahead seems hopeless and bleak.
The fifth station. Simon helps Jesus carry his cross. As they led him away, the soldiers seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus.
In his desperate need, Jesus receives help from a stranger. How do I feel when others recognize an unspoken need for help and support me? How often do I come across unfair situations and say nothing for fear of getting caught up in the crossfire?
A thought from Oblate tradition. During the French Revolution, Eugene and his family were forced into exile in Italy. They were refugees depending on the goodness of others. Eugene knew suffering in his life. He endured poverty, the loss of status and a permanent home. He never forgot what he owed to the goodness and generosity of others, experienced during his years as an exiled emigrant. Kindness is a quality that is indispensable, said St Eugene. We pray. Lord, take away my uncertainty. Make me bolder to act when others need my help, so that, like Simon, I can share or ease the burden of others in some small way as a sign of my solidarity with those in need.